Hello and welcome to this special discussion on the menace of superstition in the region, the Northeast. Local youths from Shillong brutally attacked near a village in the state's East Khasi Hills district. While one precious life was lost in the incident, at least 8 youngsters are still in trauma, grappling to come to terms with the shock and brutality they were met with. The youths were attacked under suspicion of being Manshono, which can be roughly translated into those who kill people to feed their blood to a mythical serpent spirit called Uthlen. Well, this is not the first time that people in the hill state have been attacked on suspicion of them being Manshono. Besides, many have also been attacked under suspicion that they practice witchcraft. And mind you, such mindless superstitious beliefs are not restricted to Meghalaya only, but spread across several other parts of the region, including parts of Assam. So why do these acts of barbarism continue in the 21st century when digitization is the order of the day and the world is but a global village? Is there any awareness being created to discourage people from taking such steps, and is it being ensured that stern punishment is handed to perpetrators of such cases? What is the way forward? To take the discussion forward, I'm being joined by John Kashing, Chairman of the Grand Council of Chiefs from Shillong. Also joining me from Shillong is John Thaba, General Secretary of MEPA, the Meghalaya Editors and Publishers Association. And in the studios in Guwahati, I have Dr. Sangeeta Datta, psychiatrist. Thank you so much, all of you, for being on Northeast Live. My first question is to John Kashing. Yet another incident, yet another assault case due to superstition, and there seems to be no end to these cases, Mr. Kashing.
At the outset, I would say, express my deepest sympathies to the families who were badly affected with this assault. But I should say that these incidents, there's a long, it's not just, the solutions to this is just not one remedy. It's a series of remedies that have to be addressed in this matter. So, yes, there's a tendency of taking law into their own hands. This myth of Menshano, this myth of Sthlen has been going on for a long time. And it is taking a lot of, awareness. It requires a lot of awareness, requires a lot of enlightenment, literacy to change this mindset. It is extremely unfortunate, extremely unfortunate. We have also, from our end, condemned this incident in the strongest terms. Our AM, Dr. Balajit, also has condemned this, and he has also assured that he would, ensure more communication go out. So I think, there are so many levels of branches of stakeholders who should play a major role in changing this mindset. It involves many stakeholders to deal with this matter.
Well, John Thaba,
I have no excuse for this.
Yeah, absolutely. There can be no excuse for this. John Thaba, this is not the first such incident in Meghalaya. I'm sure the traditional bodies, the Darbars, the traditional bodies have a much bigger role to play in this, because there seems to be no end to it. It has continued. We have been hearing this, of course, as Bajon Kashing rightly mentioned. The story of Uthlen has been there. This has been there for decades now, and there's been no change. But assaults have continued, and it's not about only East Khasi Hills. We have had cases in Garo Hills, parts of Garo Hills, Jaintia Hills, everywhere. I'm sure traditional bodies have a much bigger role to play. So does the society.
You're right. The traditional bodies have a very great role to educate the people about the superstitious belief that is prevailing in the society, among the Khasi society especially. So, but one more thing I have to mention here is that this mob mentality has been, been very strong among people in the villages of Meghalaya, that sometimes the traditional bodies also have very less control. Like in the recent incident at near Sentul, some headmen had tried to, rescue those boys and to try to pacify the crowd, but then the mob won't allow them to intervene. So this is a situation. I don't know by how far traditional health should be able to.
What do you think leads to these kind of situations, and what is it that triggers? We have here a group of youths who go for a picnic, probably apparently harmless, and then see, if there is a quarrel or something, if two groups have a fight and there's a fight, that's a different thing altogether. But the case which comes out apparently with the reports that we are getting, it is worrying. What do you think? This speaks volumes of the kind of superstition and beliefs that are prevalent, still prevalent in the villages across the state.
Yeah, this superstition about Thailand has been in existence for time immemorial among the Khasi society. So, but there has been very less effort by the intelligentsia and the intellectual people to try to dispel these kind of beliefs, which are wrong. And for far too long we have been seeing these kinds of incidents happening. But after the incident happened, there was discussion, there was debate, there were talks, there were write-ups in the media. But then after some time, the whole thing disappeared.
Absolutely,
the whole debate disappeared. So unless this becomes the topic of discussion, the topic of debate, it will continue to happen again, time and again.
Absolutely, that's the bigger point. We'll take that forward further in our discussion. Dr. Sangeeta Datta, mob mentality, of course, prevalent in many parts of the region still. And what do you think, is the trigger factor when it comes to the case at hand, like the one that just happened in the East Khasi Hills district of Meghalaya, or even in Assam, we have had in the past several incidents where, somebody has been accused of practicing witchcraft and being targeted, lynched. And that is very much prevalent in several areas. What do you think is the trigger? Is it just superstition or motivated in some case? What, as somebody who studies the human psyche, what do you think is, leads to these kind of incidents in the very first place?
Well, when it comes to witch hunting and witchcraft, of course, sometimes we talk about women being targeted, but in this particular incident where actually it's not about women, it's not about gender bias at all. So we have to basically address two issues. Number one is superstition, and number two, the mob psychology, or why do these people behave the way they do. When we talk about superstitions, we have to understand one thing, that these are age-old beliefs, belief systems, which are very difficult to remove unless and until we give proper education to the masses, unless and until there is proper awareness building, which also cannot happen overnight. It will take time, and it has to be there consistently. It has to be there. It cannot come today, it can't disappear again, it has to be there constantly. So when we talk about superstitions, we have to understand that the values, the cultural norms of a society and the belief systems of a society influence the way a person thinks, feels and behaves. When I say thinks, when a person thinks that this is true, for a person who is a victim of superstitious belief, he believes that that's true, okay, that's to be understood. Now, when you think that this is true, you feel that way, you feel scared, you feel angry, you feel you are responsible for protecting others if you can, etc. And then you start behaving that way. You show violent behavior, aggressive behavior, you take law in your own hands, you don't understand what is logical, what is not. And when it comes to mob psychology, of course, when it's one person or two people, it's a different story. But when it comes to mob psychology, one or two people take the lead, the rest follow. They don't even analyze what is right or wrong, what is rational or irrational, and there is anonymity also in mob violence, But the other part of the story is this, that usually such incidents happen in places which are educationally backward, financially, economically backward, deprived people, So these people are very frustrated because they do not, their needs, basic needs of life are not fulfilled. So sometimes, showing such behavior may be an outlet of their, it's one good way, one easy way of venting their anger, frustrations, etc. by blaming someone else for their misfortune and for their bad times.
Absolutely.
So this is nothing about this is logical, but we have to understand all that happens in mob violence and all that happens related to superstitious beliefs is never logical.
John Karshing, do you think as a society we are also guilty of hanging on, holding on to age-old superstitious beliefs which we do not want to let go? That is also in a way responsible for these kind of incidents that persist.
Yeah, I think as my co-panelist just now mentioned that it requires, as I mentioned also earlier, it requires involvement of all the stakeholders, society, in the society. And especially in terms of 6 scheduled areas, we have the autonomous district council, if I may, digress a bit, in the sense that when I communicated to the traditional heads of that area where this incident took place, the neighboring traditional village heads, so they said that in fact some of them also got assaulted. Such was the the mob thing. So rumor mongering is such. Added to that is the beliefs, the myth on this Mentiono and on this thing. So I would say that there was in fact I've mentioned to some other people that there is a law called the Administration of Justice Rules 1953. Under the Khasi Hills and Jaintia Hills District Council. In fact, that law is also prevalent, I think, in some of the district councils in Assam. The Administration of Justice Rules 1953. That is the legislation which would capacitate the villages in terms of how to administer justice. So in this case, a group of boys who had gone for a picnic was suspected to be so and so. The village heads tried to tell them that no, we have to first do an inquiry and find out the background and reality of all this. But as the crowd grew larger, things went out of control. So what I feel is this particular rule has not much awareness has been created in the rural areas about this, So this capacitation of how to administer a complaint, how to deal with, or even awareness about the criminal procedure code, very few people know about this. So it requires a number of stakeholders. It requires our legislators, it requires our representatives, elected representatives, to create this awareness, this literacy all over the place. The other thing is, we have also just been learned. You see, I don't know how much you are familiar, but the nearest police station is almost around 2.5 hours away. All right, in this kind of a terrain. So, but be as it may, the police rushed there, thank goodness, to mobile, and at least the others were saved. So one other aspect was the lack of police presence in an area as large as Maukandrao block. It's a whole constituency on its own, which does not even have a police station. So these are the administrative aspects of it, which could have handled this on time, prevented these things. But again, like I said, creating an awareness on the various legal rights, human rights of people is something which needs to be, on a war front. on a war front by all the stakeholders.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is something. So far as awareness building is concerned, I think responsible from people from the community itself have to take an initiative, because in so far as
Absolutely.
superstitious beliefs are concerned, they don't trust outsiders.
Yeah, and that's why you
So
have the traditional heads
maybe
in
the
Meghalaya. You have
headman
the
or yes,
exactly.
headman
So
or
in
the
this
school
case,
teacher.
even the headman intervened, and even the headman was injured.
Yes, when the incident is happening, when it's a mob violence, then you cannot actually control things. That's a different story. But when awareness building and preventing such incidents in the future is concerned, I think the responsible people from the community, they must take an initiative, and only then other people will trust them. Otherwise, outsiders are never trusted and they're questioned. So, and other people, even if we want to work, then we should work in liaison with those people, with the local people.
Absolutely, that's the basic in states like Meghalaya. John Thaba, again, these kind of situations are perfect also for criminal elements to take advantage and probably make any acquisition and target anybody they feel like. That is also another situation. It's not always about superstitious beliefs. Maybe such beliefs, such superstitions can also be used as a pretext to target anybody coming from outside. Is it also in a way the fear of the outsider? The fear of the outsider, in this case, the youths are also local boys from Shillong, Khasi youths, but they are non-locals to that village, to that district, to the area. Is it also the fear of outsider that has come into play, probably in this case, John Thaba?
No. That is not the thing that is happening. As far as the issue of Menshano or Thailand or something, there is a belief among the Khasis that only the Khasis should be the victims of that belief.
Okay.
So there is no relationship with with outsiders. So when we talk about the incident that happened at Santung also last few days, the people of the villagers there, they knew they knew that these boys were Khasis, but they accused them of being the Menshano. So what I want to say here is that there is need for proper awareness among especially in the villages, because many cases have happened since 2008, 2009 till now. Around 7-8 people have died because of these kind of accusations.
Absolutely.
So, like I said before, there is need for a proper awareness to be conducted by the authorities. Like here, if the police department reach out to the villages and hold some kind of seminars or
can the police do
awareness
it? Is the
programs
police equipped
on
to
these
do
kind
it?
of issues?
Is the police even equipped to do it? Can the police do it?
No, if the police can do awareness on drugs or substance abuse, why not conduct awareness in villages also about the dangers of superstition? Because after all, the life of a human being is very precious. So if a person dies from drugs, it's also a matter of concern. If a person dies out of this kind of mob violence, it's also a matter of concern. There is a need for the police department to go around to reach out to the villages and to tell them that these are
I'd just like to give you an example.
The right thing to do. And also, let me complete. Let me just a little bit. And also, there is need among the education department also to call the teachers. Because the teachers are the last persons to be involved in these kinds of issues. But I believe the teachers in the schools, especially in the rural schools, they can do a lot to create awareness among the villagers, among the people, among the students about these kind of superstitions and all this. So this will help. Unless we take this matter seriously, things will happen again and again, and many more lives will be lost.
But yeah, you had.
Yes, I mean,
A point
in
of view,
relation to this, earlier we had a lot of stigma related to mental illnesses. And there were beliefs that mental illnesses are caused by curse and evil,
Or
etc.
maybe somebody's possessed.
Somebody's possessed. But then, of course, we couldn't change the picture much. Who changed were community leaders who used to, like, village headmen, then headmasters, people who were significant in that community, and they were heard by the community. And people did not reject them, people did not doubt them or suspect them. So later what happened, we started activities like this. Counselors and psychologists and psychiatrists worked in liaison with these community leaders so that awareness could be built. And today, in fact, we get a lot of patients from the villages who come to us, to psychiatrists, and not to a faith healer. So I think even in this case, maybe the police can help, but I think the community leaders will have to play a major role so far as awareness building is concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. And John Khashing, when we have had recurring cases, it is also the responsibility of the authorities, the state government, to have an action plan in place. In this case, it has to be a collective effort, can't only be the police or the teachers. It has to be the traditional heads, the local bodies, the MLAs, the district council leaders, the MDCs, social help groups, NGOs. But for that, I think it's apart from the traditional bodies, say bodies like yours, Grand Council of Chiefs, also the state government also has to have an action plan in place. This could be, why can't we have in our textbooks some compulsory chapters which have awareness on things like these that could be taught at the very primary level. Have we seen any such steps from the state government so far? No, I don't think, not yet. So this raises another question. Are we really serious about tackling these issues?
Yeah. You see, that's a good point that you have raised. It requires, like I said, all the stakeholders to pitch in. I recall we had felicitated an interaction with Justice Madan Lukur, who was here who had visited Shillong, and there's that office called the Meghalaya Legal Aid Services. So they, tried to called us, and we organized a lot of the traditional heads to come to a central point, and then the justice gave us a few points. So that is like one of kind of a arrangement which happened a couple of years ago from the judiciary part. The other aspect is, as my co-panelist here, John Thaba, has said, that kind of arrangement, this organizations like the Meghalaya Legal Aid Services, groups like that, if they were to go to every village, because these are rural villages, if this kind of communication goes there, advocacy goes there, that will greatly help. I mean, we can facilitate. We are willing and happy to facilitate all these things. But, we need the stakeholders to come on board. The other thing is, as we are noticing as the very high profile case which is happening in Delhi, is again, there are a number of cases like these which have happened, where again justice has taken a long time to be delivered.
Absolutely.
So,
probably never delivered in most of the cases.
So this is, so if I may ask, like, I recall the recent case, as you mentioned, remember in Assam, Upper Assam somewhere,
yes,
a famous, I think, artist was suspected to be a kidnapper and this and that. And
yes, the infamous case of Abhi and Neil. Of course, we all remember that. How can we forget? Yes. So that's my next question. Yeah.
So if the justice system plays its role, then things, it could set an example. So that is also another message that could go down to the grassroots, that, okay, this is the kind of deterrent that you have if you indulge in such kinds of violence.
Absolutely. John Thaba, my last question to you, because this is mob violence, hardly anybody is punished. Does that embolden people to continue with these kind of acts, and it keeps on happening every time because they know they will get away with it because a mob has no face, and this has to change. Let's start with this case. Can the Meghalaya government, can the justice system get its act together
You're right.
as far as this case is concerned? Very quickly.
You're right. You're right. There is a need to be, to have a very stringent punishment against the perpetrators of these kind of crimes. Unless we are very firm with them, these things will keep continuing.
Yes.
So I think we need to to revisit the law also, because sometimes the people who are arrested for such kind of murders and all this, you'll find them out in the street, say about 1 week from now. So this becomes
That's a
mockery of the
very,
law.
very,
Unless
very worrying
stringent
trend.
measures
Yes.
are taken.
Yes. That has to change.
Yeah,
Dr.
it's a
Sangeeta
worrying trend.
Datta.
So we need to,
point.
the government has to do something.
Absolutely, absolutely. Last words from you, Dr. Sangeeta Datta. We're running out of time.
On one side, we are talking about removing superstitious beliefs. And on the other side, if we think deeply, we still have storybooks of children which talk about witches and superstitious beliefs. I think we need to address things at multiple levels.
Absolutely.
And we need to have more logical and rational stories for children, so that children don't start believing in, witches and superstitions from their childhood. I think we need to address the education system too.
Absolutely. So basically,
upbringing.
Yeah.
That's
So
very
basically,
important.
all the
I agree with that.
stakeholders have to work together. Yes. It's time. We're in the 21st century. It's time we say goodbye to all such superstitions. And superstition is no license to kill anyone, mind you. We hope justice is served as far as this case is concerned. Thank you, Mr. John Kashing, John Thaba, Dr. Sangeeta Datta, for joining us on this discussion. That's a wrap.